What is PHP, and what does the acronym stand for?
Acronym PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. It is an open-source scripting language that is widely used and mostly designed for web development. For the creation of dynamic web pages, PHP is frequently embedded within HTML code. It can be used to carry out a variety of server-side operations, including handling form data, connecting with databases, and generating dynamic content.
What is the newest version of PHP?
As of my last knowledge update in May 9, 2023, PHP 8.3.1 is the latest stable version of PHP.
What are the basic data types in PHP?
There are several basic data types that help you work with different kinds of information. Here are the main ones. 1. Integer. This is for whole numbers, like 5 or -42. 2. Float, or double 4 numbers with decimals, like 3.14 or -0.5. 3. String. This holds text and can be anything from a single letter to a long paragraph. 4. Boolean. This represents true or false, like a light switch that can be on, true, or off, false. 5. Array. Think of it as a list or collection where you can store multiple pieces of data together. 6. Object. It's like a blueprint for creating more complex data structures with their own properties and functions. 7. Null. This is a special type that means the variable doesn't have any value at all. These data types help PHP understand and work with different kinds of information in your code.
How do you comment out code in PHP?
You can add comments to your code to provide explanations or notes that are not executed by the computer. This is helpful for yourself and others who may read your code. Here's how you can add comments. Single-line comments. To comment out a single line, use 2 forward slashes, // at the beginning of the line. Anything after these slashes on the same line is treated as a comment and won't be executed. For example, multi-line comments. If you want to comment out multiple lines or a block of code, you can enclose them between / and */. Everything between these markers is considered a comment. For example,
describe the difference between single quotes and double quotes in PHP strings.
There are two main ways to define strings, with single quotes and double quotes. Each has its own characteristics and use cases. Single quotes. Strings enclosed in single quotes are treated as literal strings. This means that what you see inside the single quotes is exactly what PHP interprets, and it doesn't try to evaluate any variables or escape sequences within the string. For example, double quotes. Strings enclosed in double quotes allow for variable interpolation and the interpretation of escape sequences. This means that PHP will evaluate variables and escape sequences within the string. For example,
how do you declare a variable in PHP?
You can declare a variable by using a $, followed by the variable name. Variable names in PHP are case-sensitive and can contain letters, numbers, and underscores. However, they must start with a letter or underscore. Here's how you declare a variable in PHP. You can also initialize a variable with a value at the time of declaration. PHP is a loosely typed language, which means you don't need to specify the data type of a variable explicitly. PHP will determine the data type based on the value assigned to it. For example, in previous code, PHP will recognize $variable name as an integer because it was initialized with the value 42. You can use variables to store and manipulate data throughout your PHP code. Here are some examples.
How can you check if a variable is set in PHP?
You can check if a variable is set using the isSet function. The isSet function checks if a variable has been defined and is not null. It returns true if the variable exists and has a value other than null, and false otherwise. For example, in this example, if the age variable has been defined and has a value, it will print age is set, 30. If the variable is not set or is null, it will print age is not set or is null.
What is the purpose of the $_get and $_post superglobal arrays?
$_get and $_post are superglobal arrays in PHP used to retrieve data from HTTP requests. $_get is typically used for data that is part of the URL's query string and is less secure, while $_post is used for data sent in the body of POST requests and is more secure, making it suitable for sensitive information. Purpose: $_get is used to retrieve data from the query string in the URL when an HTTP GET request is made. It's typically used for passing data to the server by appending it to the URL. Usage: for example, when you submit a form with the GET method, the form data is included in the URL, and PHP can access it using the $_get superglobal. Security note: data sent via $_get is visible in the URL, which means it's not suitable for sensitive or confidential information. It's commonly used for search queries and other non-sensitive data. $_post. Purpose: $_post is used to retrieve data sent to the server in the body of an HTTP POST request. It's commonly used for submitting forms with sensitive or large data, such as login credentials or file uploads. Usage: when you submit a form with the POST method, the form data is sent in the body of the HTTP request, and PHP can access it using the $_post superglobal. Security note: data sent via $_post is not visible in the URL, which makes it more secure for sensitive information. Example:
Explain the difference between get and post methods in PHP.
The get and post methods in PHP are two of the most commonly used HTTP request methods for sending data from a client, typically a web browser, to a web server. They differ in how they transmit data, their use cases, and their implications. Get method. Data transmission: data is appended to the URL as query parameters. This means the data is visible in the URL itself. Use cases: get is used for requests that retrieve data from the server without making any changes to the server's state. It is a safe method that should not have any side effects. Data limitations: get requests have limitations on the amount of data that can be sent, and the data is limited to ASCII characters. Caching: get requests are cacheable, which means that the browser can store the response and reuse it for subsequent identical requests. Security: get requests are less secure for sensitive information because the data is visible in the URL, making it vulnerable to being seen in logs or by third parties. Example: Post method. Data transmission: data is sent in the body of the HTTP request. It is not visible in the URL. Use cases: post is used for requests that typically change the server's state, such as submitting form data, uploading files, or making database updates. It is a non-safe method that can have side effects. Data limitations: post requests have no specific limitations on data size, and they can transmit binary data as well as ASCII characters. Caching: post requests are not cacheable by default, as they are assumed to have side effects. Security: post requests are more secure for sensitive information because the data is not exposed in the URL. Example: the main differences between get and post in PHP are how they transmit data, their use cases, data limitations, caching behavior, and security implications. Get is typically used for retrieving data and is less secure for sensitive information, while post is used for making changes on the server and is more secure for transmitting sensitive data. The choice between them depends on the specific requirements of your web application.
What is the purpose of php.ini file in PHP?
The php.ini file in PHP serves as the configuration file for the PHP runtime environment. It plays a crucial role in controlling various aspects of how PHP behaves when running on a web server. Here are its primary purposes. 1. Configuration settings. php.ini allows you to configure various settings related to PHP's behavior, including PHP options. You can set PHP options like error reporting, display errors, and maximum execution time for scripts. Resource limits. You can control resource limits, such as memory limits and maximum file upload sizes. Module configuration. You can enable or disable PHP extensions and modules. Security settings. You can set security-related configurations, like allowing or disallowing certain functions or features for improved security. Paths. You can define paths to important directories and files, such as the location of the PHP executable, session save path, and temporary directory. 2. Customization. It allows you to customize PHP to suit your application's requirements. For example, you can configure PHP to use a specific character in coding or enable specific extensions that your application needs. 3. Server-wide and application-specific settings. You can have different php.ini files for different purposes. There can be a system-wide php.ini that affects all PHP scripts on the server and individual php.ini files for specific applications or directories, allowing for fine-grained control. 4. Security. Properly configuring php.ini is crucial for enhancing the security of your PHP applications. You can set security-related directives to mitigate potential vulnerabilities and protect against common attacks. 5. Performance optimization. You can optimize PHP's performance by adjusting settings like caching, opcode optimization, and memory management in the php.ini file. 6. Logging and debugging. php.ini allows you to specify the location and format of error logs, making it easier to debug and troubleshoot PHP scripts. 7. Version compatibility. PHP releases may introduce changes and new features. php.ini allows you to adapt your PHP environment to match the requirements of specific PHP versions. It's important to note that making changes to the php.ini file typically requires administrative access to the web server or hosting environment. Additionally, changes to php.ini affect the entire PHP environment, so careful consideration should be given to how changes might impact different applications running on the same server. Overall, the php.ini file is a crucial configuration file for PHP, enabling you to tailor the behavior of PHP to meet the specific needs of your web applications and ensuring their security and performance.